Hello and welcome back to It's Not Just a Tuesday podcast where we talk about work and life and the stories that connect us all. Today I am here with Terry Bean, who we were just chatting offline about the fact that our worlds have crossed paths for years and years and years, and we haven't actually done work together, but have done work around each other so often and have so many of the same circle of influence that I love when we're able to connect. Terry is a business coach, a speaker, just an all around incredible person who is focused on really empowering people, empowering professionals, helping them develop and grow. And we're just going to hop right in and start chatting because I know that you have lots of cool things to say to us today, and I want to hear more about your story.
Well, thank you for the warm introduction. I love that. You asked if where's my bio? I'm like, just tell the people what you know about me or you
I
think
know.
you know about me. This is great.
Yes, exactly.
Way
And I
better than
have
the
I
bio.
have the bio, but I do typically like to just say, "Here's what I think you are." And then if I'm wrong, then we're going to work on your personal branding, so that'll be the next thing we do.
Perfect. Yeah. It's like a lead magnet. I'm
It is.
sorry.
Yeah.
My intro was wrong. Well, your LinkedIn profile must blow.
Yeah. That's bad then. So, Terry, tell me and listeners who you are and what you do and how you got to the place that you are today on this Tuesday podcast.
Yeah, right on. I'm a sucker for helping other people grow, right? That's my
Oh,
entire
same.
world.
Yeah. I said, oh, same. I love
Yeah,
that.
you know what? I have this vision of what human interaction can be. And in order to see that become reality, we have to like change. We have to elevate. We have to uplift. We've got to empower. We got to bring people to a higher energy level.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I try to represent that and be a beacon. Simultaneously, I try and be the guy standing behind people and kicking them in the butt to get there. So, it really depends on who you are to
Yeah.
see who I'm going to be in that scenario. Does that make sense?
Oh, that's so cool. Yeah. That happens to me a lot. I often say in the work that I do, yes, I do PR, and yes, we're doing content, and yes, we're doing story development, but so much of that is me doing just that, right? My job is to help you figure out what your story is. And so usually I need to like pull some stuff out of you, come behind you and push you along and say, where are the things that you want to share? And if you're not, a lot of times we find out, people have ideas of stories they want to share, but they're not doing the thing yet. So sometimes we got to create the story that you want to share. So I love that. And I often, I work with business coaches a lot, and I always say I love when someone has spent time with you and then they get to me, right? Cuz they've done the cultivating work. And
That's right.
now they get to be like, "Okay, now I want to organize what we do with it." Cuz now I've done the cultivating work. So share a little bit about your journey getting to this spot where you have your own business, you're working on your own. If people haven't noticed listening to this podcast, I am an entrepreneur and a business owner. I really like talking to other entrepreneurs and business owners. We're cut from the same cloth. We're all just a little crazy and love what we do, and we're suckers for the ups and downs, and we're suckers for helping people. So talk a little bit about what got you here.
I've been telling people for a couple of decades, I'm basically psychologically unemployable. And so that's kind of how this happened. I was 27, maybe 28. I was a recruiter for a technology company, and they were paying me a pittance of a salary and a pittance of a success fee anytime we actually place somebody. And I was doing 100% of the work.
Hmm.
And I'm like, this is dumb. And
Yeah.
there's a better way to do this. And I'm not the smartest person you'll ever meet, but I often find myself as one of the smarter people in the room,
Mhm.
and which means clearly I'm in the wrong rooms. No ifs, ands, or buts there. Um, but in situations
But you
where,
feel good in those rooms. You feel good. You feel
yeah,
smart in those rooms.
no, no, because in those rooms, it's about other people's ego a lot of
Mm.
times, right?
Oh,
And
yes.
if you're the employee who's the smartest guy in the room of the company, but the person sitting across from you is the one that signs the check,
Yep.
it's
Yep.
it's bad.
Yeah.
The vibe's off, right?
It's
Because they
bad.
know you're smarter than them, and they're annoyed by it. Because
Yeah.
most people don't have the forethought to say, "I'm going to hire smarter people, and I'm going to listen to them." Right?
Yes.
That's not most
Right.
folks' mo.
Yeah.
Most people are like, "I'm going to hire smarter people. I'm going to steal their ideas, and I'm going to keep them down."
Right. Yeah.
that's, that's
Sadly.
that's it,
Yep.
right? So listen, be people one, not people two.
Yes.
And then, so I started my own firm. At the time, I was doing a lot of business networking in Columbus, Ohio. I
Okay.
was overseeing 5 different chapters of a local group there.
Okay.
I was 27, and networking groups are filled with 40 and 50-year-old people. You'll see some 30-year-old people.
Yep.
You'll see a couple of 20-year-olds, some of the youngest guy in the room as well. And it was fun. I enjoyed it. But I moved back to Detroit in 2000, spent a couple of years looking at different networking opportunities, and one day started my own, a group called Motor City Connect that
Yep.
was leveraging the idea of face-to-face networking and all the things I was learning on LinkedIn back in '04 and '05.
Mhm.
And, that thing grew like a weed.
It did. That's how I know you.
Yeah. So it was really cool. That led to a speaking career. Speaking career led to coaching career. And, now here I am sitting here talking with you
Chatting
about
with
the issue.
me. You've come full circle.
It's so great. So great. Like the
That's so
pinnacle.
awesome. I didn't know that you were in Columbus for a while. My family is from Columbus.
Oh,
My
really?
sisters were both born there. I have an aunt that still lives there. So I was born in Detroit. I'm the Detroiter of the family, but my mom's family's from here, but from Columbus. So I love that you said the psychologically unemployable. It is a theme with a lot of people who are really, we're passionate about carving out our own path. And I think sometimes people think it's because we really want to, but I'm the first one to say I do this because this is what works for me. I do this because I don't fit into a lot of other corporate molds. And if I do, um, I can't do it for very long because I get burned out because I don't thrive there and I don't really mesh well. And I've got to kind of squelch some pieces of me in order to be able to do that well. And I love hearing how you take it and run with it, and so many people who I think change the world start that way, right? It's, the tech companies in their garages and everything else. Somebody who is someone's boss now had an idea and started a business, and some of them get much larger than ours. And that's okay. But I love seeing that passion and I'm going to just try this thing, right? And then that is why we're sitting here today, is because you tried doing a networking thing in early 2000, right? I mean, that's amazing. That is amazing to me to hear that and to see that. I was also the 20 something in the networking room of 40 somethings when I started my business, and it was very, you gotta get really confident in who you are really fast, because you don't have those years of experience that the other people do, and you don't have all the things that normally tout a confident resume builder kind of person.
That's right. And you have to carry yourself, and you have to present yourself a little differently. And,
Mhm.
I remember one of the guys I work with talking about fake it till you make it. And this is the late '90s. And that was
Oh,
the first time I'd ever
it
heard
is.
that advice. And I was
Yep.
like, interesting, but not accurate. Right? It's like,
I
okay, if I fake it till I make it and I'm attracting a bunch of people to me, are they attracted to
Then
me or
what?
the person I'm pretending to be?
Mhm.
I don't want I don't need fake friends,
Yeah.
right? I don't need fake clients. I need
Right.
real stuff.
Yeah. Well, and how do you sustain that, right? I joke all the time that because when I started my business, I was in my 20s and single the first time out, right? I've worked for a couple people since and then restarted, but I was single and in my 20s. And so I was growing a career while I was also going on lots of first dates. And so in my mind, they're both the same,
Hmm.
right? Like the way that LinkedIn works is really the same as a dating website, right? You put your best foot forward, but also don't lie about crap because you can't sustain that, right? If you are something when you present, and I think that's why I'm so passionate about authentic, real branding and the fact that, I mean, branding is just I don't know what else to call it, but that's what it is. But just being yourself in every space, because you're right. When the client gets there, it's going to be the same as when the date gets there, right? If I say that I am, a blue eyed, blonde haired, 5'9" woman, you are going to be sorely disappointed if that is what you were expecting to meet on date one. If I tell people that I am a super corporate, buttoned up, data analytic driven PR agency, the client is going to be upset or I'm going to really be tired trying to prove that I can do that thing. That's not what we do.
That point two is far more relevant and important than point one.
Mhm.
Listen, clients are going to be upset even if you are exactly who you say you are, right?
Mhm.
That's just the
Oh, for
nature of
sure.
client work. But you stressing yourself out because
Yes.
you made up some BS to get
Yes.
some extra dollars, that's the worst sort
Yep.
of self inflicted pain and
It
punishment
is.
there is.
Yeah. And I think that's why people, I'm hoping that as people listen and connect with me, with us here and me here, that, you know, yes, I'm a small business owner and I love talking to small business owners, shamelessly. But even as a professional, right? If you're seeking jobs that don't, people are unhappy in careers, that doesn't mean you need to start your own business. It might mean you just need to find a different place to be. It might mean that you need to, is your industry the right industry? Do you flourish in even just what you do? Right? Maybe it's a shift. Maybe you don't do data entry. Maybe you do, um, you know, corporate leadership management structures or whatever that looks like. And I think we forget sometimes, and it's a luxury. It's a luxury to be able to choose your job, right? It's a luxury to be able to say, okay, I'm gonna take a risk or I'm gonna change jobs. I get that. I'm never gonna be one to say that it's not a privilege and an honor, that I've had the opportunity to work for myself. Right. I get that. I know that people are struggling to find the right job every day. And I respect that, and I hope that people hear that and hear you say, just be who you are, right? You will find it if you trust it and you're confident in that. So, talk to me a little bit about, the work that you do is so much about empowering people. And we chatted a little bit before about how, Terry is the first man to be on It's Not Just a Tuesday podcast. Not on purpose. I have this big list of people. I mean, not on purpose that
Thanks.
you're accidentally first, but I have a list of people that I'm really just excited to talk to. I partially just started this podcast so people could hear me talk to people that I think are cool. You're on that list. And so just the way that dates have worked out over the next few months, you were the first. And it just so happened that I had a handful of women that I love and admire on prior to you. And I started to think, is this, do I stay just only talking to women because I love women who are empowering? And someone said to me, actually, just today, when I told them, oh, Terry's going to be on the podcast today, I'm really excited. And they said, well, women empowerment, but also men who empower women. And it's exactly what you said to me when I said you're the first man who's going to be on the show, is because, you know, there's a big that's all in the same group, right? There are plenty of women who don't empower women. Um, and there are plenty of men the same, but I am naturally drawn to people who just value humanity. And so lifting up people who need a little lift up, which these, the minorities in business are still women and minorities. And so I love I love that you're the first, and I love that, you are celebrating women as much as I am, and just people in general. Um, I would love to hear from you and just, kind of tap into some of your expertise on, as you're working with people and as you're in, speaking and training and all of that. Talk a little bit about what you see in people that they are really kind of missing, or that you really wish they were more confident in. I ask this question a lot because I love hearing um, people's opinions in their industries and in their view on, what do you really wish we stopped forgetting, and that we were more confident in ourselves, personally or professionally.
There's a couple of things. So, number one, I really wish people would do the work to figure out who they are.
Mm,
Right? You said earlier about be
yeah.
who you are. And I had a license plate for 2 years that literally says now our. But what it meant was know who you are.
Oh,
All right.
wow.
And so the advice is do the ding dang work.
Yeah.
Figure out what you're good at, figure out what you're bad at, figure out what you love doing, figure out what you can't stand doing,
Oh,
figure out where you want to spend time and
that's
where you
everything.
absolutely don't.
Mhm.
Do the work.
Yeah.
Right. And once you make the little checklist, okay, all of these things line up and make me happy.
Right.
Oh, well, then I can lead into one of these 3 or 4 positions. Gosh, we spend too much time at work to not be happy about it.
Right?
Right. And when you were
Yeah.
given the example earlier about, maybe you're in the wrong industry, maybe you're in the wrong company, maybe you're just in the wrong seat, right?
Mhm.
Maybe you love 80% of the people, but your
Yeah.
boss sucks or the work sucks. But if you were
Yeah.
on the other side of the office doing this thing, you'd love it,
Right.
you
Right.
know? So,
I
do
love
the
that.
work,
Yep.
know who you are,
Yeah.
right? And then I think the second thing, and this is really something, you ever listen to the Smart List podcast with
Mhm.
Jason Bateman and the boys?
Mhm.
Um, the one thing I noticed after listening to about 20 episodes of that show is every single guest they had all experienced the same, if not similar level of imposter syndrome.
Ugh.
So, guess what? If you're talking to someone that's making $20 million a movie
Right.
or $15 million a season to hit a ball,
Right.
and they're suffering with the same BS you are, we all got it, kids.
Yep.
And just remember 3 words: you are enough.
Oh my gosh. I'm getting goosebumps because I think I'm seeing a theme in the people that I connect with, and I love that. Because we just a couple months ago had a whole episode about you are enough, and I am I am such a huge proponent of that, and I said on that episode, and I'm gonna say again now, I follow someone on social media for a long time who, her thing was, "If I am too much, go find less." And I like, that is it for me, right? Whatever you're supposed to be doing, you're enough for. And when I started the podcast, one of the first episodes I did on my own, which I hate doing episodes by myself because I want to be able to share my story, and it's important to me, but at the same time I think, well, no one wants to just listen to me, right? Because the imposter syndrome. And I started to do the podcast and thought, nobody wants to listen to me. Why am I even doing this? Everybody has a podcast. This is so stupid. I can't believe this. It's not going to work. No one's going to want to be my guest. I mean, all of the things, right? Imposter syndrome, 100%. And I know that that's a thing that I deal with. So I've put parameters on myself where I will, and I've said this before about this example. Before I bought the fancy mic or downloaded the podcast app or hired somebody to help me with this, um, I made the announcement of the date that the podcast was launching, because I know that I will let myself down, but I won't let my reputation down. and I won't say I'm going to do something and not do it. And so if you are listening to this and you have some imposter syndrome like I do, and or whatever other thing, right? If you need a deadline to get something done because you are just scared and a procrastinator, also part of my imposter syndrome, just set a deadline. Tell somebody else. Accountability really works, especially if you are someone who is driven by, like I am, just wanting to make sure that I am who I say that I am, right? And that I don't let people down. That doesn't mean that I'm not going to be flexible and that some things are going to work and not work, but I'm enough to get this done. I have to make sure I know that. And so I have really kind of put sometimes confines on myself to make sure that I don't listen to the lies of it when I get the imposter syndrome in. So I love that. That is so true. And I think too, going back to your A, right? If you know who you are and you trust it, then you will know you're enough, right? Like if you've
That's
done the work.
exactly it, right? It's amazing when you get to that point where you strip away all the facade and it's just you, your skill set, and your
Mhm.
desires
Yeah.
staring at you in the mirror.
Yeah.
It almost feels impossible to not take some kind of action to
Wow.
realize that person into reality.
Yeah.
Right? And it feels like everything else is a waste of time, effort, and energy.
That needs to be. Did you write that book yet? Because I will read that book. When you see that person, you will do whatever it takes to give that person what they need. I mean, that's huge. I think that's such a shift for people personally, professionally, anything. This is why you're a coach, because that's really good stuff right there. Okay, so I'm going to do the thing that I do now with people on every podcast where we talk about how it's not just a Tuesday and every day we're doing something really cool that we forget is really cool. And I do that because I want people to see the in real time example of the fact that regardless of who we are and what industry we're in or what we do for a living or where we live, we have a story to tell. We have a past, a present, and a future that really defines who we are, right? And those every moment of our story kind of directs the next moment. And so I like to be able to see what's on Terry Bean's Tuesday. Also, I'm just really nosy. So what's on your calendar last Tuesday?
Well, last Tuesday I was on a beach. Oh, no, that's not true. I was not on a beach. I was flying home and probably
Oh,
laying in bed from just getting back on a beach.
okay.
This past Tuesday, I did a recording of the Behavioral Elements podcast. We do a monthly lunch and learn where
Okay.
we talked about how the elements show up in terms of conflict. And I worked on a sales presentation. I'm doing a training in Boston next week
So cool.
on Monday. No, actually on Tuesday. So I've got to go to Boston next week. So I was working on a training deck and I did some prospecting. And the one thing I let myself down on, because it was nice here, was going paddleboarding. I always try and talk myself into hopping
Awesome.
on my board in the middle of the day, but I blew it on Tuesday and I feel
Missed
bad
it.
about it.
That's awesome. That's a good Tuesday.
It's good.
That's a successful Tuesday. Talk a little bit about, so one thing I'm going to say is, so what of that Tuesday, those moments, and I didn't look at sometimes I check social media the week prior to people coming on the show so I can see what you shared about that Tuesday. Did you share anything aside from just, hey, this is what I was up to about that Tuesday?
I didn't share anything about it, but I have a tendency every now and again to stir the proverbial pot, and I absolutely pissed some people off on Tuesday.
Ooh.
We're probably not going to get into it on this show. My wife said, "Stop talking about that. You can't irritate people like that."
Ooh, that might be its own episode. I love some
Well, yeah,
controversy.
we can cover it,
All right,
and
stay
it's
tuned for
it
Terry Bean stirring the pot on on another episode of It's Not Just a Tuesday.
it seems crass and insensitive, but it genuinely comes from a place of love and trying to empower people to be better,
Yeah.
as opposed to, yeah. So I took a stab at a new theme in corporate America that I think is not having the effect
Okay.
that people want it
I
to.
gotta take a look. But
Yeah.
even that, I love that is on brand for you, right? And when we talk about being who we are, knowing who we are, right? You want to challenge corporate America or people in general, right? You said that in the beginning. You said you like to sometimes come behind and support and or push,
That's
right?
right.
Sometimes that looks like stirring the pot. And so, if you're sharing those things that probably other people are thinking and don't want to share, that is a part of what makes you you and what draws people to you. So it is a part of your story. Um, Talk to me a little bit about, I know this work that you do with the personality and the assessment piece of it. Talk a little bit about that before we wrap up, because it's very cool, and I think that more people need to hear about it.
I had this idea to create a new assessment for behavior, to measure behavior. I like DISC. I like Myers Briggs. I don't like the outputs. I can't relate to someone who may be an ISTJ or an ENFP like myself,
Hmm.
because there's 16 of them. I'm not sure which is which. I can't really
Right.
spot it. I can't remember the S and the C in DISC. It doesn't
Yeah.
make sense to me. So it's not relatable. So I was like, I got to make something that's relatable. I was a big fan of the TV show Avatar Last Airbender. So earth, fire, air, water, those things make sense to me. I can see if someone's being fire. I can hear if someone's being earth. I can watch how you behave to see if you're
Yeah.
air, right? And it's all this cool stuff. So I started writing down the characteristics of it. And then a friend of mine, a guy named Steve Lois, a HR practitioner, said, "What are you excited about?" I told him about this. He said, "You must follow Jay Johnson." I said, "I don't know who Jay Johnson is." He said, "Jay created an assessment, some training, some coaching modules, a bunch of presentations around air, earth, fire,
Yeah.
and water."
I have some friends who did that. But most of those folks were not professionals that I know who did that work. They were like in the wellness industries. They were in
Nice.
more of the holistic wellness world. So that was where I had ever heard of that. I didn't know that he had come into the professional world. So you're still the first one to do it in my mind here.
Yeah, so it's cool, right? So it's really interesting to me because I'm a high air, which means I'm curious, I'm innovative, I'm creative, I'm an ideation guy, and I can be totally aloof. So it depends on who you
Okay.
are, right?
Oh, that might be
If you're
me.
Yeah, if you're talking about some stuff that I don't care about, you're gonna know.
Okay.
I'm not gonna tell you, but
Right.
I'm gonna be like, you're gonna look in my eyes and be like, is he even there? Yeah, he does not care. He's
Right.
not. I'm not gonna engage in gossip and BS. I'm gonna engage in ideation
Okay.
conversation. But my water's high, which means I like to bond with people and create harmony and
So
really
cool.
move people forward. My fire is my third element, which means I'm driven to win and I want to compete. It's not as high as the other two, so I don't have to win to feel good about myself.
Okay.
My water's higher, and water people are like, I don't care if you win, go ahead, win all you want,
Right.
So it's a weird balance for me. And then earth is the one that is the drive to defend, that cares about fairness and justice and status quo and are really linear thinkers. And so this assessment allows people to look at their culture, their communications, how they lead, how they want to be
That's amazing.
led, how they want to be communicated with. And then it informs how they market and how they sell too,
Hmm.
because we have to relate to the people we're communicating with. And you know that better than anybody.
Yeah, I love that. And I said to you when we were chatting as we were getting ready to start, or maybe I said this at the beginning. I love when folks work with someone like you and then get to me, right? Because that's usually the natural progression. And I love collaborating, right? Where we're able to say, all right, take your team, figure it all out. Now figure out how to talk to each other. Now figure out what your language needs to be. Now figure out how you do internal and external communications, and what your mission statement is, what your taglines are, all that stuff, because you have a whole group of people who, to your point before, know who they are, right? And they have some language around it, and they know who each other are. I love that. So when I had first heard about, again, I was working with some holistic folks at the time, and it was, the fire type burns hot, and they need the air types to blow and keep their fires going. Like, it was a different, I think it's a different model. I love the idea of being able to kind of identify, in such a tangible way, how we work. That's absolutely amazing.
That was the key to me, right? I've been telling people and teaching people how to build relationships forever.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so I've been encouraging people to take a Myers-Briggs or a DISC so they can at
Right.
least know who they are,
Yeah.
how they show up, and how that'll help them and inform them on how to relate to others better. But it frustrated me because, again, none of those tools are relatable. This
Yeah.
one's like, I can go read your LinkedIn profile and have a really educated guess as to what type you are
Yeah.
just by the words you write in your profile or in your headline. It's
Right.
awesome.
That is really cool. That's awesome. Well, I'm so glad that you took some time with me today. I love that we had some time to just chat and hang out. Thank you so much for coming and being on today. I'm certainly going to be checking in with you to do some of this testing, because I want to. Now I'm curious. Now I want to know. I'm whatever type is super curious about everyone all the time and wants to know more about myself and everyone in the room always.
Yeah,
Um,
you're an air water like me, I think.
Probably, yeah, but
Yeah.
less aloof. Like, I want to hear everyone's story. I don't really care if I'm interested in that. I just like you. I want to know what you're doing. I want to know about your Tuesdays.
Yeah,
Um,
I love it.
so I will certainly, if you're listening to this and you want to connect with Terry, his information will be in show notes, and we'll be sharing some other things as well. Definitely come back and chat with us anytime. Chat with me anytime. And
Love it.
Terry, tell me about your goal before I say goodbye. Tell me about your podcast goal. This was what we talked about, right? How many podcasts do you want to be on this year?
I just 100.
Just
No,
100.
just
So if
100.
you are listening to this and you know somebody who has a podcast, or you have a podcast, please call Terry, because
Yeah.
he would like to be on your podcast. Just shameless little PR marketing plug from me right now. I'm also going to share that when we share this out, because you've got a really cool story, and you've got lots to say. And I think, anyone who wants to know more about themselves, will benefit from chatting with you. So thank you so much for getting off the beach and hanging out with me for a little while.
Yeah, yeah. It's truly almost my pleasure. I'm kidding.
Almost. If this was the podcast from the beach, maybe it would be your pleasure.
100%. Listen, I've been off the beach for a week, so
Okay.
that part, yeah,
You were
that
ready.
part was done.
You were ready
But
to come back
I
in.
was super excited to be here and have this time with you and get to chat with you both before and during the show. So thank you
That's
so much for
awesome.
having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you. It's not just a Tuesday. Thank you for hanging out with us. I will see you on another Tuesday.